Rickie Fowler wasn't even supposed to be here. Let that sink in for a second. In a season where golf's spotlight has been dominated by young breakout stars, powerhouse veterans, and a constant tug-of-war between tradition and disruption, Rickie Fowler, the face of so many almosts and maybes, was an afterthought. A name once inked on every leaderboard has, in 2025, faded into the background noise of the PGA Tour. No wins, no top 10s in 9 events. Not even a whimper of the Fowler who once stormed majors with swagger and Sunday red. Some players qualify, others get chosen. Rickie? He was invited back into the fight. And yet, here he is. Not because he qualified, not because he earned it through rankings or recent form, but because he was granted a sponsor exemption, a courtesy, a lifeline. The kind of invite extended more out of nostalgia than necessity. As NBC Sports put it bluntly, Fowler, a 6-time winner on the tour, has played in 9 events this year without a top 10 finish and needed a sponsor exemption to play this weekend. This wasn't a farewell tour, it was the spark no one saw coming. That's not the resume of a contender. That's the profile of a fan favorite hanging on to the final threads of relevance. But what happened next? It flipped the entire golf world on its head. Sometimes, silence isn't defeat. It's the sound before the storm. Because Rickie Fowler didn't just show up to the 2025 Truist Championship, he arrived. What followed wasn't just a good round. It wasn't a feel-good moment or a nostalgic lap around the course. No, it was a statement. One that left fans stunned, analysts scrambling, and competitors wide-eyed. What do you do when your name is fading? You play like it still means everything. Here was a man, practically counted out, swinging like his reputation depended on it. Because honestly, it did. And that's what makes this moment so electric. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Truist field was packed with heavy hitters. The venue? A test of precision and nerve. The stakes? Sky high, with major championship momentum building and the FedEx Cup race tightening. No one, absolutely no one, had Rickie Fowler penciled in as a headline. It's the stories no one predicts that hit hardest. But that's what made it so perfect. There's a certain magic in sport when someone you've written off walks back into the fire and burns brighter than ever. And when Fowler teed it up in round 1, nobody expected what was about to unfold. Some rounds whisper. This one screamed. Sometimes a round of golf is more than just a number on a scorecard. Sometimes it's a message, loud, undeniable, and aimed straight at the doubters. And on a Thursday afternoon at the 2025 Truist Championship, Rickie Fowler delivered that message with precision, fire, and maybe a little bit of revenge. This wasn't momentum, it was ignition. A 7 under 63. Let's not gloss over that. This wasn't a casual 68 that crept him into contention. This was a round that exploded off the leaderboard, the kind that turns heads before you've even finished breakfast. And it came from the guy who wasn't even supposed to be here. The same Rickie Fowler who'd gone winless all season, who needed a sponsor's grace just to tee it up, suddenly walked into the Philly Cricket Club and played like he owned it. There's a moment in every comeback where doubt dies. This was it. The round itself was a masterpiece of momentum. It started solid, a couple of tidy pars, no fireworks, and then it happened. The run. Birdies at 4, 5, and 6. All clean, all confident. And just like that, the swagger was back. You could feel it in the broadcast, in the crowd, even in the posture of Fowler himself. This wasn't just good golf. This was locked-in golf. Hot streak? Try controlled fire. But he wasn't done. On the back 9, Fowler shifted into another gear. Birdie on 11, then another on 13, and then the putt on 16. A slick downhill slider that dropped dead center was the exclamation point. He didn't flinch. Not once. He was in the zone. By the time he tapped in for par on 18 to card that 63, the tone was set. He walked off not just as a contender, but as the story of the day. In a sea of talent, one man hijacked the storyline. And what made it all the more dramatic? He wasn't alone at the top. Fowler shared his round of the day honors with none other than Collin Morikawa, who also posted a 63. But both were still looking up at Keith Mitchell, who stunned everyone with a blistering 61. Still, The real narrative wasn't Mitchell or Morikawa, it was Rickie, because no one expected this from him. You don't reclaim your throne quietly. When a former Golden Boy returns from the shadows and starts torching a leaderboard, it's more than a good round. It's a signal, a warning shot, a declaration that he's not just back, he's dangerous again. And maybe, just maybe, the clock isn't ticking on his career the way everyone thought it was. When a number becomes a moment, history listens. This 63 wasn't just a number, it was a roar. For Fowler, it was personal. For the fans, it was electric. And for the rest of the field, it was a wake-up call. The guy who everyone thought needed an invite to show up just showed everyone up. Hook. One round changed everything, and the story? It's just getting started. Next up, we dig into the bigger picture. How Rickie went from outsider to main event, and how that PGA exemption wasn't just a courtesy. It was the next chapter in a story that suddenly feels very far from over. You don't get handed respect. You earn it, or you take it back. You don't get into majors on memory alone. Not in this era. Not with the depth of talent and the pressure to perform week in, week out. But Rickie Fowler? He found a way. When the headlines change mid-season, you know something big just happened. After that electric 63 at the Truist Championship, the golf world wasn't just watching, it was reconsidering everything. Suddenly, the guy with no top 10s in 9 starts had become the headline. And while the scoreboard told one story, another was unfolding behind the scenes. A story about opportunity, about legacy, and about a door being opened, not by ranking or points, but by respect. No noise, no drama, just one name quietly returning to the biggest stage. Because just days before the PGA Championship field was finalized, a headline quietly dropped. Rickie Fowler had been granted a special exemption to compete. No fanfare, no press tour. Just one of the biggest tournaments in golf saying, yeah, we still believe in him. They didn't owe him anything, but they gave him everything. They didn't have to let him in, but they did. Think about that. The PGA doesn't hand out participation trophies. This is the PGA Championship, one of golf's 4 sacred stages. Entry is earned through victories, rankings, qualifying events. It's not a charity case. It's not a thanks for the memories type of event. So when Rickie Fowler's name showed up on that list, it meant something. The game hasn't forgotten who helped build it. It meant the people who run this game still see what he brings to it. It meant the gatekeepers understood that legacy isn't always linear, that sometimes greatness needs a second chance. Some invitations are just polite. This one lit a fire. And make no mistake, this wasn't a sympathy invite. This was a spotlight. You don't give Rickie a mic and expect him to whisper. Because Fowler didn't just accept that exemption, he weaponized it. He walked into the PGA Championship not as a ceremonial figure, but as a wildcard threat. The guy who's been there before. The guy who knows what Sunday pressure feels like. The guy who's been counted out before and keeps showing up. He's not just getting back in the game, he's reshaping the board. That's the beauty of what Fowler is doing in 2025. He's not just clawing his way back onto leaderboards, he's forcing his way back into the rooms that matter, into majors, into conversations, into the collective mindset of a sport that had just about moved on without him. Every opportunity comes with a timer, unless you turn it into history. And here's what makes it more powerful. Every exemption has an expiration date. Every invite has a price. But when a player turns those chances into moments, like Fowler has, that's when the narrative changes. That's when the comeback becomes real. Don't ask why he's here, ask who's ready to keep up. Now the question isn't, why was Rickie Fowler invited? It's, who's going to stop him now? Because this comeback? It's just getting warmed up. Next, we pull back the curtain and ask the big question. Is this just a spark? Or the beginning of something far bigger? Comebacks in golf are tricky. They rarely follow a clean arc. More often than not, they tease you. A hot round here, a flash of the old swing there, only to fade just as quickly. But what Rickie Fowler is doing in 2025? It feels different. This doesn't look like a one-off. It doesn't feel like nostalgia bait or a lucky week on a soft course. This feels like something deeper, a shift, a second wind. Because if you've followed Rickie's journey, you know how far he's had to climb just to get back in the conversation. Once one of golf's brightest stars, a players' champion, a major runner-up multiple times, and a Sunday Contender fans couldn't take their eyes off, Rickie Fowler's game hit a wall. The swing that was once poetry in motion started falling apart. Technical tweaks turned into full overhauls. Coaches came and went. The confidence? Gone. And the stats backed it up. Missed cuts piled up. His world ranking plummeted. For a while, it seemed like every event was another quiet exit on Friday afternoon. He wasn't trending, he was disappearing. Between 2021 and 2023, he was lucky to see the weekend, let alone the winner's circle. Even when he showed flashes, like his T5 finish at the 2023 US Open, it always felt like a short spark rather than a sustainable flame. But 2025? That narrative is shifting. ESPN's latest season stats show something we haven't seen from Rickie in years: consistency. His scoring average has dropped. His putting, long a strength, is back to being lethal. And even though he's still searching for a win, the trajectory is pointing up, not sideways. Then there's the money. Thanks to the PGA Tour's Player Impact Program and recent strong showings, Fowler is suddenly back among the top earners, without even winning. That's not just performance, that's influence. That's proof the golf world still leans in when Rickie swings. And now, the question echoes across fairways and into locker rooms. Is this just a flash? Or are we witnessing a full-on Rickie revival? Because if it's the latter, the PGA Tour just got a whole lot more interesting. This isn't just about birdies and scorecards. This is about resilience, redemption, the kind of quiet grit that turns a fading star into a roaring comeback. Next, we connect the dots and zoom out. Because what Rickie Fowler is doing isn't just personal. It's shifting the energy of the entire sport. In a year where golf has been anything but predictable, Rickie Fowler may have just become the sport's most unexpected headline. And the ripple effect? It's real. Because this isn't just a story about one guy. It's bigger than that. It's about what his comeback represents to fans, to players, and to the very fabric of professional golf in 2025. Let's be honest, the PGA Tour needed this. Between the ongoing tension with LIV Golf, player defections, boardroom drama, and a fractured fan base, the sport has been fighting for clarity, for identity, and for something, someone, to remind us why we cared in the first place. And out of the chaos, out of the fog of uncertainty, enter Rickie Fowler, a player with history, a name fans never stopped cheering for, a face that once graced every billboard, now quietly stepping back into the arena and turning it upside down. Because when Rickie dropped that 63 at the Truist, it didn't just move him up a leaderboard, it reignited the storyline. Suddenly, fans were asking, is Rickie really back? Could he win again? Could he sneak into the FedEx Cup mix? Commentators couldn't stop buzzing. If Rickie can do it, anyone can. And maybe that's the point. Rickie's resurgence isn't just about his own revival, it's about possibility. It's about reminding everyone, especially the players grinding on the edge of irrelevance, that 1 week can change everything. That past greatness doesn't expire. It waits. And it doesn't hurt that his rise is happening in the middle of one of the most volatile periods in golf history. While some stars are chasing guaranteed money and leaving behind tour traditions, Rickie is out here grinding, climbing, earning his way back, not with politics, but with performance. There's a poetic symmetry in that. While others talk about legacy, Rickie's rebuilding his. And in doing so, he's adding something invaluable to the PGA Tour: depth. Because when the big names stumble, the story doesn't stall. Guys like Fowler step in and remind us why golf is more than just a leaderboard. It's a living, breathing drama. So now we ask the question that feels impossible to answer, and yet impossible to ignore. In a year full of unknowns in pro golf, could Rickie Fowler be the biggest surprise of them all? Because whether this ends with a trophy, a major, or just a final chapter written on his own terms, one thing is clear: Rickie's not done, not by a long shot. And maybe, just maybe, the next roar you hear on Sunday won't come from a new name. It'll come from a familiar one. What do you think? Is this Rickie's last run, or the beginning of something huge? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to see the 3 holes that made the biggest difference in that 63, click here next.